तिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीजटापरकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखम्भितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Good morning, everybody. So we've come to a very important part in this course. How many people are here for the first time? Any first? Yes, we have a few first-time people. The old classes are available, actually, if anybody wants to listen to them, and the future ones as well. But we're coming down. We're starting to wind down, everybody. I think we have 4 more classes, including today. And but we've come to such an important point because we've discussed what is yoga. That yoga is a way for uncovering one's own true nature. It's inside us, but we're out of touch with it. But it's beautiful, it's eternal, it's full of knowledge, it's full of happiness, it's full of bliss. Somehow we've lost touch with it. How did we lose touch? The mind is in the way. And so yoga is a way of getting control of the mind so that it stops interfering with the experience of our own true nature. And so then we have to understand what is the mind and how the mind works. And we spent some days discussing the different departments of the mind. You could say the different features of if the mind is a computer, then the different applications on the mind and how they function and how they can be used to kind of free oneself from the bondage of the mind. And then we discussed the world that we're moving in and the laws that it operates under, particularly the laws of karma, the law, the force of time, as well as the 3 gunas, the 3 modes of material nature that each have they each have an effect on our awareness, on our consciousness. And then we talked about how to break free from that trap that we're in. And that was the 4 paths of yoga: Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga, Karma yoga, Bhakti yoga. And then we said all of that fits under a category that we could call conventional Vedanta, but that there's a more confidential Vedanta that Krishna speaks about in the Bhagavad Gita and that opens up in latter Vedic texts. And that has to do with love. That actually, if we really understand the nature of the self, it's not just that we're eternal, it's not just that we're blissful, but that bliss is found in divine love. And that becomes this is something that when Krishna speaks about in the Bhagavad Gita, he says it's confidential. But what does it mean that it's confidential? It's right there, everybody can read it in the book. But he says it's confidential because unless your heart is situated right, even you read it, you don't understand it. And therefore, to this day, there's always debate about, you take this broad, vast literature that Vyasa wrote, and he wrote it basically on 3 different levels. And we can call that the Karma Kanda, the Karma section of his literatures, the Jnana section of his literatures, Jnana Kanda, and then Bhakti Kanda, the Bhakti section of his literatures. So the Karma Kanda deals with how to be pious in this world and reap material benefits, generate good karma. The Jnana Kanda says, trying to find happiness through good karma, through external things in this world, ultimately it leads to dissatisfaction, right? You have a much higher potential. Rather than looking without, you should look within. Find your own true nature, find the nature of the self, and enjoy that freedom from the material sufferings of this world. And then the bhakti kind of says, no, there's even something beyond that, right? The peace that one finds by letting go of material things, that's good. But you get that and you get much more when you have divine love, right? There's a bliss in divine love, a happiness in divine love that is not only way beyond what's experienced in the peace of what jnana can deliver. But not only is the happiness of it so far beyond that, but actually it's our true nature. It's what we're meant to discover. That's why we're all running around this world looking for love in one way or another. And even sages have recognized that practically everything that we do, every move that we make, is a call for love. It's out of a need of the self to want to love and be loved. And we're doing that in all kind of confusing ways, but if we can go deep within, we can discover that nature. And if we hear from these texts, they can inform the mind and inform the heart in such a way where that love that is within us can arise. That the pure, spotless, selfless love called bhakti or prema can arise in the self. And so we spoke last class about how the great sage Vyasadeva, who wrote all of this literature, all the texts that the entire yoga culture grows out of, he wrote them all and he was dissatisfied. He felt some sense of dissatisfaction in his heart and he couldn't quite put his finger on why. And then he began to think, maybe because I've written so much and my approach has been to speak to people at whatever level they're at, that it's become confusing where this all goes. And maybe I haven't emphasized bhakti enough. Maybe I haven't emphasized bhakti enough. And now people, they may even misunderstand bhakti as being something less than jnana, right? Maybe this divine love is part of the illusions of this world. Isn't this world full of relationship and full of form? And isn't bhakti, like there's a form of a God that you develop love for? And isn't love like a material emotion? Maybe it's a good thing, but it's not the highest thing. Maybe the highest thing is when there's no form, right? And there's no love. Love is something between two people, but there's no duality on this level. Couldn't that be the higher thing? So Vyasa is saying people are misunderstanding my text. They're not understanding where it all leads. And he wanted to clarify that. And we're going to read right now we read last class about how he felt dissatisfied, and then he began to intuit exactly what I just said. And then out of nowhere, right at the right time, comes floating into the scene this spiritual figure that just has like a reputation, a status as a spiritual being that's just way beyond practically anyone. That's Narada. Now Vyasadeva, he was born about 5,000 years ago. They call him a Chiranjeev because they say his lifetime is like exceptionally, ridiculously, inconceivably long. They say that even though he was born 5,000 years ago, that he's still up there. You could still find him up in the hills, right? You might need some special vision to see him, but he's up there. But he was born about 5,000 years ago. But Narada is one of the first beings like in creation. His father is Brahma, who's the first being. There's Vishnu, right? Who's like God himself. From his navel grows a lotus flower. Upon that flower is born Brahma, the creator. And then Brahma starts to create progeny with his own mind. And one of those sons, original sons of Brahma, is Narada. So Narada isn't someone that's coming from 5,000 years ago, or even 10,000 years ago, or even 100,000 years ago. He's coming from practically the beginning of this cycle of this universe's creation. And he's respected and known as this person he embodies the highest principle, which is divine love, which is bhakti. And so for Vyas, who's within the realms of Vedanta and yoga, is considered the sage, because he wrote all the Vedas that we study. In one sense, Narada is far beyond him. It's someone that's coming back from the most ancient times, and he just floats down right when Vyasa is feeling this despondency. He has an interest in Vyasa because he knows Vyasa has been entrusted to write this literature for the dark age that we're now living in. And so with compassion and affection in his heart, Narada appears right when Vyasa needs him. His guru comes to him right when he was in his moment of need or confusion. Right? Perfect, yes? Imagine if you were feeling all despondent. Maybe I've worked so hard, I've tried to do it so right, and still something's wrong, and then your guru comes, I can help you. So I'm going to read a bit from their conversation, but what I want to draw attention to, this is what you look for as you hear what I'm reading. Are you ready? Everybody with me? Yes? Okay. Narada is going to be explaining that he's going to be confirming for him that you've been unclear and that you've held back in emphasizing bhakti. That all of the knowledge of yoga that leads to feeling a sense of oneness, that's all fine. But there's something beyond that, which is this divine love. And you've neglected to emphasize that, and you've neglected to emphasize that divine love is where all this leads. And that's why you feel dissatisfied. So you need to do something about it. You need to do something about it. Does anyone know what he did about it? What did Vyasa do? He wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. Very good. That's what that was. And so therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam, also called the Bhagavad Purana, welcome. This becomes the key to understanding everything that has been written before. If you want to understand the Vedas in the proper context, if you want to understand the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutra, the Mahabharata, or all the Puranas, and you're confused because sometimes it seems to be speaking on different levels or saying different things, even sometimes it seems to be contradicting, there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction. You just have to see it through the lens of Srimad Bhagavatam and it all makes sense. And what he does is so important because the Vedanta Sutra, which we spoke about earlier, is a 550 verse text, not even verses, sutras. It's like they're very cryptic statements that explain and lay out all the knowledge of the Upanishads. So for great thinkers in this tradition, they write commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra. They interpret it to try to establish a lineage of teachings. This is how all of Vyasadeva's literatures is meant to be understood. And you have these different lineages that come down. They all will write their commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And there's a debate going on because some of them are saying the teachings of the Upanishads that teach about finding this oneness through jnana, renouncing the things of this world and experiencing everything as one, that this experience is the highest experience and bhakti is something maybe on the way to that, but it must be let go of. And one must come to this higher stage of moksha. Okay? Everybody with me? Then other Vedantins, other philosophers have said, no, you've misunderstood. That's just a neutral state. You're against form, you're against individuality because you see it causes pain in this world. But this world is a reflection of the spiritual world. It means it has everything here is there, but in its perfection. It's kind of upside down or backwards. The reflection is backwards. But in the spiritual realm, there is individuality. There is form, but it's spiritual, so it never deteriorates. The relationships don't fall apart. The forms don't fall apart. Our bodies don't fall apart, etc. And divine love is the goal that's experienced here. That is the realm of divine love. And we're meant to rediscover that. That's higher still. That's the debate. Everybody understand? Okay. Vyasa, in order and so they write, and so people with that point of view, they write conflicting, or they answer the earlier commentaries on Vedanta Sutra by writing commentaries on Vedanta Sutra that are arguing that bhakti is the goal. And if you read carefully the Upanishads, you'll see this message. So the commentary on Vedanta Sutra becomes the way that a lineage establishes their teachings, and they debate each other about who's right and wrong. What Vyasa does is say, listen, all Vedantins, you're reading my texts and you're confused. Some of you are saying I'm saying this and some of you are saying I'm saying that. I'm going to write my own commentary on Vedanta Sutra. and it's going to be called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here I'll be very explicit and explain everything very clearly. So Vyas is going to write this special text, but we're going to hear about building up to that right now. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so this is the 5th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. And the sage that's speaking, we'll get to him, but there's a sage named Sutta Goswami that's speaking. And he says, thus the sage amongst the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the Rishi, addressed Vyasadeva, among the Brahmanas, Vyasadeva. Addressing Vyasadeva, Narada inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? That's kind of like, it's like a guru comes out and says something quite heavy to his disciple. Are you satisfied? He knows he's not satisfied. He can just look at his face and see he's not satisfied. And he said, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? And what he's saying is, you've written the Karma Kunda section of the Vedas, which is basically about satisfying the body, or satisfying the mind through external things. Are you satisfied that you've written this literature? It was meant to be a first step, but a lot of people think it's the goal. So he's saying, are you satisfied with that? He says, your inquiries were full, and your studies were also well fulfilled. And there's no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work in the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained. So he's saying, there's no doubt you've done a lot of great work, especially the Mahabharata. You were really on it when you wrote that. That Bhagavad Gita explained it. It did explain everything there. You got into bhakti there and you explained it and you did a nice comparative study of everything. So that was really good. You have fully delineated. You have fully delineated the subject of the impersonal Brahman. Where did he do that? In these texts? Who can say? In the Upanishads, right? That's where he's really talking about this oneness, the feature of God that is non-personal. You've covered that well. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone? And then Vyasadeva answers him. Now the disciple answers the guru. All that you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I'm not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. For you are a man of unlimited knowledge, due to your being the offspring of Brahma, who is self-born. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under the disciplinary regulations and vows. Does everyone understand what's going on? I know it's a lot of terminology. I really wish I had visuals. I want to show you, maybe next year this could be a big screen and we could show you Vyas. We could show you Narada speaking to him. And we can show you the different categories. I could lay it all out there. But Narada has come, this being from the most ancient of times has come, and he's come down to instruct his disciple, Vyasadeva. And he's saying, you wrote great books about how to satisfy the body and the mind in the Vedic literature, the Karma Kunda. And you also wrote stuff about the impersonal Brahman, where you renounce all the things of this world, all the external things, and yet you're not satisfied. So what's going on? And Narada's saying, you tell me. I respect you. Find out what's wrong with me. Where have I failed? This is the way a disciple needs to be able to speak to Guru. Where do I need to improve? Okay, so now Narada answers. He says, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered, this is heavy, worthless. In one sense, he's saying everything that you wrote, in one sense, it's worthless. It's a step up, but if you think it's the goal, you'll never reach the goal. He says, although great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles, beginning with religious performances. That means dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? How to do dharma, be dharmic in this world, be dutiful, do the right things. That's explained. That from that, then you get prosperity, dharma, artha. You get the good things in life. You get wealth and reputation and all of that. Dharma, artha, kama, and then you can enjoy this world. But when you enjoy this world after some time, you begin to realize it doesn't truly satisfy. It doesn't satisfy the heart. And so then moksha, you renounce everything. So he taught the first three, dharma, artha, kama, in the four Vedas, and moksha he taught about in the Upanishads. So he's saying you've covered all of that stuff. Although you have very broadly described the four principles of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, you have not described the glories of the person Vyasadeva, the person Krishna. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be unto like places of pilgrimage for the crows, since the all-perfect persons. Let's stop there. What is a place of pilgrimage for the crows? Where do the crows go? Anyone know? Where do they like to hang out? Yeah, like if there's a big garbage heap, then that's where the crows go, right? They're searching for something. They're searching for happiness and missing where it really is, right? There are other birds that, like the hummingbird, it just goes right into the flower, right? And it's got this long beak and it goes in there and it's taking some nectar out of there, right? Or the swan, they go to the beautiful, peaceful lakes and so on. The crows go to the garbage. And in a sense, what he's saying is, it's such strong language so that there'll be no confusion. But if you're looking for happiness in the material world, you're looking in the wrong place. There's something much higher than satisfying the senses of the body. There's something within you that's much, and divine love is so far beyond that if you're so confused that you think divine love is not my goal and enjoying wealth in this world is my goal, you're like a crow that went to the garbage. You're not going for the nectar. You're not going for the beautiful, sweet stuff. Make sense? Okay. On the other hand, that literature which is full of the descriptions of the transcendental glories of, and this is important, he says, of the name, fame, forms, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. So he's saying that people are thinking that form is the problem, right? This is the way many philosophers that study the Upanishads think, that forms are all illusion. Forms all deteriorate. They're like dreams. They're here one moment and then they're gone. There's truth in all of that. Right? But then they kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. They say, so form is bad. It's not that form's bad, but material form is the problem. Right? And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the thesis in karma is forms in this world can be enjoyed. And the antithesis in jnana is no, renounce all forms because they cause suffering. And the synthesis in bhakti is no, we get it. Everything that you're saying about form, we understand what you're saying, but that's about form that's working under the laws of the material energy. But there is such a thing as spiritual form. So we don't have to throw form out. In the United States, I don't know if other parts of the world they say this, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. They say that? Have you heard that before? In Europe? No. Right? You wash the baby, right? And so now the baby's clean. And then you take that bathwater, you throw out the bathwater, right? But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the problem was form that's composed of material energy by nature deteriorates, falls apart. But so throw out the material side of it, but don't throw out form altogether. Then you've thrown out spiritual form, and that's the highest goal, to connect with spiritual form, to exist in a spiritual form, to experience love in a spiritual form. That's the goal. So he's saying that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of name, fame, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme, is full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. It's this. Don't be directed toward trying to enjoy the things of this world. If you do that, we all fight with one another. If we all think my happiness is dependent on external things, external resources, we all end up fighting over the resources. If we could all realize that we have a deeper type of happiness, a spiritual happiness through divine love, then that can create a revolution, right? That can create an atmosphere where we all know and can exist peacefully with one another. He goes on, and this is really important. Now he's speaking about what he wrote in the Upanishads, this brilliant philosophy that's there in the Upanishads. He says, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, it does not look well. Literally what he says is nashobhate. It has no beauty. It has no beauty if it's devoid of a conception of the infallible. And literally what he says is achuta bhava varjitam. If it's devoid of bhava for achuta, if there's no feelings of love for God, then even this brilliant philosophy about oneness and detachment, if it has no feelings of love for God in it, there's no beauty in that. That's why you're feeling despondent. You wrote these deep philosophical, dry texts, right? And they have nothing in them about the deep feelings of love for God inside them. That's why you feel despondent, and you're leading everybody in that direction, right? Everybody's confused. What then is the use of fruitive activities? What to speak of the four Vedas that you wrote, which are all about trying to cultivate good karma to get the things of this world? That's not gonna be beautiful. There's no deep beauty in that. Then he says, "O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness, and thus you can, in meditation, in samadhi, and thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of people in general from all material bondage." He's saying, Vyas, you went into trance. You tapped into an eternal body of knowledge called the Veda. You downloaded it. You composed it and edited it and presented it to the people in written form. You need to do that again. You need to go into samadhi, but you need to see more of what's up there, right? There's this eternal body of knowledge that's universal, that's not created by any human being, and it's floating up there, and you have the ability to access it. Go back into it and find the pastimes of Krishna in it. You need to sit and meditate on that Krishna's pastimes that are eternal. Connect to that, download that, and write that up and share that with people. And that's going to be the real medicine. That's going to establish where this all goes. When they see the perfection of divine love, when they see divine love in its perfection, people are going to realize that everything that you want from karma and jnana, even the detachment from jnana of all material things, the deepest knowledge, the deepest attachment, the deepest happiness is found in love. They'll see that when you show these leelas. So tap in and write down. I'll read it again. O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. Everybody trusts you. Whatever you put out, people are going to believe, right? You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness, and thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in samadhi for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to stop there. He goes on and he says more, but that's the instruction that he gave, okay? You need to emphasize bhakti. You need to show people. You need to give them a picture of divine love. In the Bhagavad Gita, you pointed to divine love as the goal, but you didn't give people the content that they need to develop divine love, right? So now he's going to write Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses that are showing through story after story after story how divine love and the motive for divine love is really what we should be focused on, and is really the highest attainment. And the way that plays out is through story after story. We find some great yogi who goes through some trials in life in their service to God. And then God, being very touched by them, appears before them and says, I'm so pleased by how you've handled yourself. I want to offer you something. I want to offer you a gift from my heart. What would you like? And then they say, I don't want anything from you. I serve you out of love and nothing else. No, I could give you whatever you want. Everything that's promised in the Vedas, I can give you unlimited wealth and fame and influence and power. I could give you a planet of your own. I could give you lifetime on the higher planets where you enjoy material bliss for thousands and thousands of years. No, I don't want that. I could give you moksha, liberation, right? Where you break free from the cycle of birth and death and you merge into this feeling of bliss. I could give you that. That's what so many of these yogis and gyanis are aiming for. I could give you moksha. Would you like that? I don't want moksha from you. I don't serve you to get anything from you. I don't want the things of this world. I don't even want relief from the sufferings of this world. I'm thinking of you. I love you. All I want is that my mind and my heart be constantly absorbed in thinking of you with love. That's the highest state of awareness. When I'm there, it doesn't matter if I'm in heaven or in hell. That's all I want from you. And this happens again and again and again and again. We see this. This is Vyasa's way of clarifying the whole picture, right? Everybody with me so far? Do we have any questions? No? Okay. Then let's talk about this book, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and how it opens up. You ready? This becomes the most important of all Vyasadev's texts. This is his own commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And he's going to start it in a special way. Just like if you want to write, I sometimes talk, have any of you ever seen the movie Amadeus? Raise your hand if you've seen the film Amadeus. 1, 2, only 2 people. All right, maybe I shouldn't use it as an example. But I was going to share from that film that Amadeus was a film about the Mozart. And if you asked 100 writers to write a screenplay about Mozart and his life, you could start it in different ways, but the typical way would you say, like, okay, Mozart was born at this time in this place, and he was growing up, and as he was growing up, this was happening, that was happening. But he didn't start the film that way. It started in such a brilliant way. It started in an insane asylum, and a priest is talking to an old person that's about to die in the insane asylum, and his name was Salieri, and he was like a rival of Mozart, and he was full of envy for Mozart. And so the film is seen kind of through the context of Salieri. You understand how great Mozart is, because this one person was so envious of him, you know. And so there's creative ways to frame a message. And Vyasa has to frame a message. I'm going to now clarify for you what all my other books were all about, where they lead, because I get it that people are confused about them. And now I'm going to write a book where there's going to be no confusion. So you know what he does? He writes of a scene where there's a large group of sages gathered in the forest called Naimisharanya. And they know that the dark age of Kali Yuga is coming. And they all are experts in different fields of the Vedic text. Some are expert in the 4 Vedas, some are expert in the Upanishads. They all have different ideas about where Vyasadev's Vedic literature leads. What's the essence of it? And what can you take from it that gives the highest good to all humanity? Okay? This is the question we should all be asking as yogis. If we're yogis or Vedantins and we look to the ancient texts, this would be our question. Where does it all lead? Well, what is the goal of it? Because it can be confusing. And they're all together, gathered there, and they're doing different practices, and they're doing different rituals, and they're speaking in different ways, and they're all realizing, you know what? We were all confused. We all have different ideas, and none of us are sure where this all goes. You with me? So Vyasadeva created a perfect scene in order to understand, to explain how not to be confused by these texts. He's saying, here's all these great sages, they're confused. So the confusion is understandable. We're going to clear it up. And so all those sages, they turned to one sage named Sutta. And I'm going to read about that right now. Ready? This begins text 4 from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see. No. Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 4. Once in a holy place in the forest of Naimisharanya, great sages headed by the sage Shonaka assembled to perform a great 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. One day, after finishing their morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Sutta Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters. So they've placed one sage, on an elevated seat, and they start to ask questions. The sages said, "Respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free of all vice. You are well versed in all the scriptures famous for dharmic life, and in the Puranas, and in the histories as well, for you have gone through them under the proper guidance and have also explained them." So he said the Vedas, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, you really understand all that literature very well. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, you're the senior amongst all of us here. You have acquired, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of God. He's especially empowered by God. And you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters, your gurus, have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. You've received all the blessings of the great souls. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Now they're going to ask questions, okay? They've established that they have faith in him as having the deepest understanding of all these texts that they're confused about. And they say, "Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way." Now that is very important, because in one sense, all these previous texts have been difficult to understand. You read the Vedanta Sutra, it's a very difficult text to understand. You read the Upanishads, very cryptic, very difficult to understand. They're saying, explain it in a way that's easy to understand. And that's going to be Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute ultimate good for people in general. The pungsham ekanta shreyas. What brings the highest good to all people? Is it karma? Is it being pious and doing rituals to thank the gods for the things of this world so that you get blessed with long life and health and wealth? And is that what brings the highest good to all mankind? Or is it what the Upanishads teach? No, letting go of all material considerations, going within and becoming free from the cycle of karma. Does that bring the highest good? Right? So the first question is, what brings the highest good to all mankind? If we look at Vyasadeva's texts, what in them brings the highest good for all mankind? And then the next, they go on. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, in the day and age that we live, people almost always have but short lives. The lives that we live are much shorter than if we go back many thousands of years, according to these sages. He says, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky. They're talking about us, by the way. Okay? And above all, always disturbed. We have a very hard time sitting peacefully, going deep within our own mind and focusing the minds. We're always disturbed. Why did that person say that about me? Why isn't this just like this? Why isn't that just like that? Why? He's saying that's the way people are in this day and age. So they go on. There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them, there are many prescribed duties, which can be learned only after many years of study in their various divisions. You've written tons of books, and even to specialize in one aspect of your books can be a lifetime's project, right? Therefore, O sage, please select the essence, the sharam, of all of these scriptures and explain it for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be fully satisfied. They may find Atma supersidity. So they're saying two things. Go to all these texts, take the essence out of them for us, And take the essence that one brings the highest good for all mankind, and two gives people complete satisfaction in the soul, right? Do I get complete satisfaction through the Vedic rituals that bring material prosperity? Does my heart get complete satisfaction by renouncing the things of this world and finding peace? Or does the complete satisfaction of the soul, is that found through divine love and only divine love? In a sense, this is what they're asking. Make sense? Everybody with me? I need to hear it from you. Yes. It's a rainy day, and I'm throwing out all this philosophy, so I know it's like hard to concentrate on. But it's so essential. So Sutta Goswami is sitting there, and he received these questions, and he says, this is in the beginning of the second chapter, he answers the questions. And he says, these are really good questions. You're asking the right questions. This is good. And he says, it's only these kind of questions that lead to Atma Suprasidhiti. It's only these kind of questions that lead to the complete satisfaction of the soul. And then he answers, and he's really straightforward. This is Vyasadev's way. He said, I've had people confused about what brings the highest good, what gives complete satisfaction in the soul. Is it jnana? Is it bhakti? Now he's going to answer it straightforward, right? So Sutta Goswami says, the supreme dharma for all humanity is that by which people can attain to bhakti, right? Savai pungsa, for all humanity, paro dharmo, the highest dharma, yato bhaktir adhoksaje, is the offering of love to the supreme. Ahoitiki apratiyata yayatma suprasidhiti, such bhakti, such love, such loving service, it must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the soul, in order to have Atma Suprasidhiti. You asked me, how does one find complete satisfaction in the soul? Is it karma? Is it jnana? No, it's bhakti. Even jnana, right? That's a motive. There's a motive in it. I want relief from the sufferings of this world. One who has deep love doesn't think that way. They don't have any personal, separate motive. The motive of the things of this world, of karma, you need to let that go. The motive for relief from the sufferings of this world, moksha, you need to let that go if you want to rise to the level of divine love, wherein you have none of those separate motives. And the only motive becomes, how do I please the one I love? And the one that you love is like, how do I please you? That's love, right? Selfless. Make sense? Okay, so he's just said, now, all these sages are sitting there and they're saying, okay, you just told us that love is the highest principle, that love is the greatest thing for all mankind, that love is the only thing that completely satisfies one. But Vyas wrote a whole bunch of texts called the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra, and when we read them, they seem to say that knowledge and renunciation are the highest thing. That means knowledge means our forms, our individuality. They're illusory, at least in some sense. That these relationships that we have in these forms cause us all kind of pain and suffering, right? And you're telling us that love, which seems to us to be all about, there's romance, there's boy, girl, that's like duality. There's I love you, you love me, that's duality. We thought that was something lower than the knowledge of jnana, where you renounce everything and become free. So what about knowledge and detachment? Jnana and vairagya. We read the Upanishads, and it seemed to say that was the highest thing. Good question, yes? Right? It's exactly the question they should be asking if we're going to clear things up. And this is Vyasadev's way of clearing things up. That even these great sages are coming right forward and saying, okay, you told us bhakti is the highest, but what about this? Okay, this is the answer that Sutta Goswami gives. He says, what's the verse again? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jana Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Hoitaka. He says, by rendering devotional service, by connecting to God with love, one immediately acquires all knowledge and detachment. All the knowledge and you see, what is knowledge and detachment from the Upanishads? You analyze this material world very carefully. You see it as illusory, and you let go of your attachment from it. Jnana, I see it for what it is, knowledge. Vairagya, I let go of it. Okay? That commonly people think that's the highest goal. But what Sutta Goswami is saying that is, if you have love for God, that love is so powerful and strong that without even trying separately, you lose interest in everything that's material. You already see this world as insignificant in one sense, and you let go of all your material attachments. That is inside love. If you have love for God, you have knowledge and detachment. It's already inside it. It's like saying, in a sense, what the sages, it's like if I gave you $100 bill, and you said, okay, well, this is nice, but I've heard that $10 is the most important thing. And you haven't given me $10. You've given me $100. And then I said, no, you don't understand. When you got $100, you got $10 and you have much more. Right? So the sages said, well, okay, divine love, bhakti, that's nice. But what about knowledge and detachment from the things of this world? No. When you've got love for God, you've got knowledge and detachment from the things of this world. It's already inside it. Right? Someone that has developed love for God, there's nothing of this material world that can confuse them or attract them, bewilder them. Right? Does that make sense? Everybody with me? This is the key to understanding everything. It's being laid out right here. Finally, the debate is over. At least it should be. Because Vyas, the author of these texts himself, is coming and clarifying them through this very fascinating conversation. Right? He's explaining to us, my guru told me that I didn't explain things clearly enough, that I held back on explaining bhakti. Now I'm writing this text, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm making it as clear as a bell. Right? All the sages, when they hear the message that bhakti is the highest thing, they all say, but hold it. What about Jnana Vairagya? What about knowledge and detachment? The Upanishads seem to be saying that's the most important thing. And then the answer is, no, you already have that when you have bhakti. It's already inside it. Okay, he's answered that question. But what about what the Vedas talk about? Because I grew up with priests in my neighborhood, and they were reading to us from the Vedas, and they were telling us that the most important thing, what brings the highest good for all mankind, and what's going to give you the deepest happiness, is doing your rituals, thanking the gods for all the things that they give us in life, and then you're going to get all these blessings, and maybe give me a little donation, while we're doing this. And so that's what's going to give that's what brings the highest good to mankind. It creates stability in society. It, be dutiful, carry out your duties, and you'll get the blessings of all of the good things in life. What about that? So now you have another group of sages that are saying, but the Vedas, we thought that was the highest thing. Everybody understand? And so the answer to that is very heavy answer to this. He wants us to understand, don't get confused by that. So he says, the occupational activities that a person performs according to their position. He's talking about the Vedas. Some people are Brahmanas, some people are Kshatriyas, some people are Shudras, some people are Vaishyas. There's this whole caste system, in a sense, that was laid out there. Everyone has duties according to their psychology, according to their stage in life, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa, whatever stage of life, student life, married life, retired life, renounced life. You do your duties according to that, you'll get blessings, right? But he says, the occupational activities a person performs according to their own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke an attraction for hearing the message of the supreme person, the divine person, right? You can do all your duties in this world. You can get all kinds of blessings, but if nothing's arising, you're like, I want to love God. I want to hear about God. Then you've gotten, he's saying right now, even though that all of that's a waste of time. And then he goes on. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Okay? Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. If you thought doing the rituals from the Vedas to get good things in life is the goal, you've totally misunderstood. And he says, life's desires should never be directed towards just gratifying the senses of the body. One should desire only a healthy life of self-preservation, take care of the necessities. And since human life is meant for inquiry into the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So tomorrow we're going to come back and they're going to ask, what is the absolute truth? What is God? Is God a person? Is God an energy? Is God everywhere? Is God inside me? Can I know God as a person? Can I love God? What is that absolute truth? That becomes the big question, and tomorrow we get into that. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for coming on a rainy day. Hari Om Tat Sat.